What's up, everyone? You're listening to WXSU. I'm JjLee, back again with the JjLee Hockey Show. And before I get started with the NHL news this week, I want to give a shout out to some of you guys. Of course, if you live in Maryland, you might know you might know where Laurel, Maryland is, and in Laurel, the Tri-City Ice Hockey Club plays there, and my brother plays for the U16 red team for them. And they won their tournament last weekend. I think it's called the My Hockey Tournament. I could be wrong. But yeah, if any of you know about that club and know any of the players, please just congratulate them. Just a shout out to them, and great job to all those players from that team. Now getting into all the hockey NHL news this week. First, we got the news for last weekend that Matt Barzal and Adam Pelech for the Islanders will both miss 4 to 6 weeks. The Islanders revealed this last week. I think it was Saturday. And this is some pretty bad news for the Islanders because they're already off to a pretty underwhelming start this year. And if they have some problems that I really don't know what's going on with them. Like, they keep blowing leads and everything, but they've got some problems that are kind of hard to identify right now. And now they've lost their best forward and one of their top defensemen. So this is going to be a huge blow to them. I guess you still can't count them out yet, but I'd say their chances of making the playoffs by this point are pretty low because, like I said, they're already off to a bad start. It's not like they have a cushion or anything. And now, yeah, it's not looking good for them. So we'll see what happens, but not good news for Islanders and their fans. Moving on, the Blues reported that Philip Broberg will be out for 4 to 6 weeks with a lower body injury, and this is bad news for the Blues, of course, because Philip Broberg, of course, has been a huge part since he got there. He's really been proving that the Oilers maybe made a mistake, not trying to hold on to him, and he's just he currently has 9 points in 12 games, and this season, and he's been a huge part of the Blues blue line once he got there, because of course we know the Blues blue line, the defense has been struggling quite a bit the past few seasons, and he's really been a really nice addition for their blue line. So losing him, of course, is a huge blow for St. Louis. Once again, just like the Islanders with their injuries, we'll see what they do without him, but they're also a pretty mid team, so I'm not really high on them. I wasn't high on them entering the season, and I'm really not high on them now with losing one of their top defensemen when their defense is pretty weak outside of that. And then we had some scary injury news the other day. Dylan Holloway, also on the Blues, had to be stretchered off the ice after being hit by a puck in the neck, and it was of course a pretty scary scene. It looked like it could be a serious situation. So thankfully he was back 2 days later, and ended up being nothing serious. It wasn't as bad as it looked like it could have been at first. He was okay. He played Thursday night, so nothing bad happened. But still, in the moment, it was a pretty scary injury. And I've seen some people say that, bring up neck guards, of course, because we've seen some pretty devastating injuries from skates to neck. But a puck is not going to protect, neck guard is most neck guards do not protect you from pucks. So if you get most of the net guards out there would not have helped them in that situation. It's just one of those unfortunate incidents, and thankfully he ended up being okay. But like I said, it was pretty scary at the time. Moving forward, we have some contract news. We saw the Boston Bruins signed Tyler Johnson to a 1-year deal worth $775,000. Of course, Johnson's been looking for a team, trying to get signed, and he's just one of those guys where he's pretty washed up by his point, but he can still be a solid bottom six guy to their team. So I think getting him for $775,000 is a good deal for the Boston Bruins, because you never know when he could maybe have a somewhat bounce back year. I mean, he was never this elite player, but he could still be bounce back year for him could still be a very solid third line, or a very good addition to third line depth, adding depth to offense. So There, so I think signing him was a good move for Boston, and we'll see how it goes for them. Moving on, we got a report from the Athletic this week that Mika Zibanejad's contract is looking untradeable for the Rangers. Of course, Zibanejad has been very underwhelming to start the season. He currently has, in 12 games played, he has 2 goals and 8 assists for 10 points, which, I mean, that's not horrible. He's got 10 points in 12 games. However, for what you usually expect from him, it's not looking good. And the thing is, last year he had, so in 2022-23, Zibanejad had in 82 games played, he had 39 goals, 52 assists for 91 points, easily an elite number 1 center. But then last year he had, in 81 games played, he had 26 goals, 46 assists for 72 points. So it took a step back for points wise, but also 12 goals and 31 points on the power play. So he was one of the biggest power play merchants in the league last year, and he really was. You saw a lot of people saying like he wasn't a true number 1 center last year, and I kind of agree. Like he wasn't even point per game, and a lot of his points came on the power play. So it was definitely a disappointing season for Zibanejad last year. Everyone was wondering if he's going to bounce back this year, but so far he really isn't. Like I said, 12 games played, just 2 goals and 8 assists. So he's not a horrible player. Like he still is a solid like top 6 forward. However, the fact that he's been going on this downward trend is not very promising. And he's currently, I mean, he's 31 years old. He's not that old, so it is kind of surprising that he's like regressing like this already. And he's making $8.5 million a year and has 5 years left on the contract after this season. So 6 years if you include this season. So this contract takes him until he's 37 years old, and that is just not looking good for the Rangers because, like the Athletic just said, he is looking untradeable, and it's pretty easy to see why. Excuse me. It's pretty easy to see why, because he's making $8.5 million, and is probably not even worth that right now. Like he's probably worth more like $6 to $7.5 million, I'd say, and he's going on this downward trend at just 31 years old. So if he keeps regressing, then imagine what it's going to look like when he's towards the end, when he's like 36, 37. So I am surprised at this, because just looking back on Zibanejad's career, of course, when the Senators traded him when he was like 23 years old, because he hadn't like fully broken out yet, it turned out to be a huge mistake. He's done really well with the Rangers. He was a pretty good player for them for his first few years, and then in 2019-20, he really had a breakout season. At 26 years old, he had I forget how many points he had. He was over. I think he had like 80 something points in 75 games, because remember his season was cut short. So he really was an elite superstar that year, or looked like he was going to become an elite superstar. Of course, I'm sure a lot of people remember when he had a 5-goal game against the Caps right before COVID shut everything down. And of course, I remember that painfully. But it looked like at the time that he was going to become this elite superstar, and he's been a really good player the past few years. But of course, 2021 he was a little disappointing, but it was still pretty good. And then 2022 and 2023, he was looking like he was like a good number 1 center, but he was not like this elite superstar that he looks like he could become in 2020. And now it looks like he's starting to regress. So he's had a decent career, but considering how much promise it looks like, how promising the future looks for him in 2020, it really has been kind of underwhelming. And it is kind of surprising to me that he's already regressing this much at just 31 years old. So we'll see what happens with him. But back to like the contract situation, I understand perfectly why it looks like it's untradeable for the Rangers, because I don't think anyone's going to want to take the contract of a player making $8.5 million and has been regressing like this for the past few years, and now the contract takes until he's 37. So who knows what it'll look like by that point. Staying with the Rangers and the Athletic, or once again reported by the Athletic, Jacob Trouba. They said it looks like the Rangers might try and trade Jacob Trouba this offseason, which they tried to trade him this past offseason, and it was really hard. Of course, that his no movement clause was involved in that, but even still, he's making $8.5 million, I'm pretty sure, and really is not that good of a player. I mean, he currently has 5 assists this season so far, so he's not like horrible, but he's not that good defensively, and is definitely nowhere near that money. So, and like there have been other years where he was more of a liability than helps to the team. So I don't see anyone. It's going to be really hard, just like with the Banjaz's contract. It's going to be really hard for the Rangers to trade him. He does only have a few years left, so it might be a thing where they dump his contract to a team like the Sharks or Blackhawks, like a rebuilding team, and have to attach a draft pick to it for them to take the contract on. But it definitely is one of the worst contracts in the league. So we'll see what they do, but I really am not sure I see anyone taking that contract. Next, we saw some history made. Quinn Hughes is the third fastest defenseman in NHL history to record 300 assists, and he did it in 376 games. The only two that were faster were Brian Leetch in 368 games and Bobby Orr in 346 games, which obviously those two are absolute legends, all-time greats. And it goes to show Quinn Hughes, we could be witnessing history here, or we probably are. What am I saying? We probably are witnessing history unless Quinn Hughes just falls off after this. If he keeps going the way he is now, then he should be a Hall of Famer by the end of his career, and very likely one of the all-time great defensemen. So this is history, and he's well on his way to eventually becoming a future Hall of Famer, unless he falls off or something tragic happens, like he gets injured and ends his career. Like the future's looking really bright for him as far as his impact on the game, and he's looking like he's going to be one of the top stars, one of the top defenseman stars in the league for a while. Next, we have some news on Kirill Kaprizov. This was reported by Elliot Friedman, and he said Kirill Kaprizov's next contract could be in the realm of Austin Matthews and Leon Draisaitl's, which they're making $13 to $14 million a year, and I think Matthews is making I want to say $13.25 million, and Draisaitl's going to be making $14 million starting next year. So that's of course a lot of money, but I think Kaprizov's worth it. This season, Kaprizov currently has, in 13 games, he has 7 goals, 17 assists for 24 points, is second in the league in points, and is on pace for 151 points. So, which I don't think he's going to sustain that pace, but I could definitely see him getting 130, 120 points. So, last year, he had, in 75 games played, he had 46 goals, 50 assists for 96 points. And remember, he had a slow start last year. It's likely he was playing through an injury, because once he got hot last year, he was one of the hottest players in the league. He really, the Wild almost came back and made the playoffs last year. He was a huge part of that. And he's been, I think that there is no question by this point. This guy is an elite superstar. I'd say, but he is a top 10. I had him when I made my top 50 players list before the season started. I had him, I think, in the 15 area in top 50 players. But I'd say now that if he continues playing like this for the rest of the season, he's definitely top 10. And he's just solidified himself as an elite superstar. Last year he had, like I said, last year, 75 games played, 46 goals, 50 assists for 96 points. In 2022-23, 67 games played, 40 goals, 35 assists for 75 points. But remember, he only played 67 games. 2021-22, 81 games played, 47 goals, 61 assists for 108 points, which that's his career high, but I could definitely see him beating that this year. And in 2021, his rookie year, 55 games played, 27 goals, 24 assists for 51 points. So this guy's been one of the best wingers in the game for the past few years, and now he's really pushing. I think anyone who didn't have him in their top 5 wingers before the season has to have him up there now, and he's really contending with. Of course, we have Nikita Kucherov and David Pastrnak have been their top 10, have made the consensus top wingers the past couple of years, but Kaprizov's really pushing that. Kucherov and Pastrnak are still amazing players. Kucherov's once again off to an amazing start. Pastrnak's been a little slow, but I think he will. I think he will get back together. He will heat up eventually, but Kaprizov is really proving that he's in their level too, or he's at their level too. And I think that, given that, I'd say he probably is worth 13 to 14 million because the cap's going to go up too over the next years, assuming he gets like a 7 or 8 year contract. The cap's really going to go up there at times, so he's going to get paid like I think he is one of the best players, or it's not even I think, he is one of the best players in the game right now, and I think that he probably deserves to get paid that much, especially with the cap going up. Next, Barry Trotz, the Nashville Predators GM, reported that they could start rebuilding if they don't get it together soon. The Predators are currently 4-9-1 to start the season, and this is one of the biggest surprises in the league because they had an amazing they had like a massive offseason. Everyone agreed they were like the most improved team over the offseason. They added Jonathan Marchessault, Steven Stamkos, Brady Shea, and they were already a pretty good team last year. They had, I believe, 199 or 100 points, and they had a slower start, but they heated up in the second half of the season, and they really were one of the hottest teams in that time. And it looked like after adding the guys like that, because they already have Ryan O'Reilly, Philip Forsberg, Jussi Saros, Roman Josi, so they added these additions in the offseason. It looked like they were destined to be a really dangerous team, but somehow I've not watched the Predators this year, except for the other night when they played the Caps. But something's just not clicking for them, and if they can't get it together, then it might be time to start a rebuild. I'm not sure how they are going to do that when they just signed Stamkos to a contract. It takes him until he's 38. Brady Shea signed a 7-year deal, and he's been very disappointing for them. So I don't see anyone taking a 7-year contract from a player who's not been living up to it so far, especially a guy who that contract is going to take him until he's like 36, 37, I'm pretty sure. I think he's like 29 or 30 now, so 36 or 37. That contract is not looking very tradable for the Predators. And yeah, just if they can't get it together soon, then they probably, if by the trade deadline they're sellers, then it probably is time to, of course, rebuild. But I just don't know how much they can do this when they have multiple contracts that I'm not sure they're very tradable. Like they could get some valuable assets for guys like Philip Forsberg, Roman Josi, Jussi Saros, but it's not. They've got a lot of contracts that could age poorly if they try to rebuild. So we'll see, but it's really going to be interesting to see how the Predators play out. We'll see if they heat up, because I am still very surprised by the start of this team. I think that they can definitely they could heat up eventually, because they've just got way too much talent not to do bad. Like if they miss the playoffs this year, they're probably the most disappointing team this season, unless there's another team that doesn't make it. But there was just so much hope and expectations for this team heading into the season, and to see them start like this is very surprising. So we'll see what happens. We saw the Winnipeg Jets this week become the second team in NHL history to win 13 of their first 14 games, and they're of course the best team in the league. They're an absolute wagon right now. I believe they won their first 9 in a row, and they lost their 10th game, but that's still their only loss. They've won 13 of their first 14, and they're looking dangerous. Like everyone's clicking, everything's clicking. The forwards, the offense is clicking, defense, the goaltending, of course. Connor Hellebuyck's one of the best goalies in the league, and their depth, they're getting contributions all throughout the lineup. The only thing is, though, I will say, their power play is currently first in the league, but is currently 42.1%. So that's not very sustainable at all. We'll see like maybe when the power play cools down what they look like. But regardless, this team is definitely a contender this year, and I don't see them really slowing down anytime soon. And then finally, the last thing I mentioned at this moment is we have kind of a funny story. Malcolm Celebrini, the youngest player in the NHL, scored a goal on Marc-Andre Fleury, the oldest player in the NHL last night. And it's just funny to see because, of course, Fleury's retiring after this year, but he was drafted in 2003, and Celebrini was born in 2006. So Fleury's been playing for 3 years longer than Celebrini's been alive, and I'm sure it's just weird for these NHL players who were drafted in like 2003 through 2006 to now see players who were or kids who were born in those years enter the NHL. And like I'm 19 now, and of course I was born in 05, but for me it is kind of weird to see that you always look up, when you're a kid, you always look up to these players and stuff. But now it is kind of weird to see kids who are my age entering the NHL. Like I'm older, like I'm 8 months older than Celebrini, which feels crazy to say. So I can't imagine how these players who were drafted in the years they were born or before they were born feel. So it's just kind of funny to see how Celebrini scored a goal in Fleury when Fleury's been in the league 3 years before Celebrini was even born. But yeah, I'm going to take a break now, play some music, and I'll be back in a few minutes. All right, moving on. I'm going to talk now about I'm going to do my usual, like, going through the standings and just giving my thoughts on different teams. At first in the Metro, you've got the Carolina Hurricanes, and they're on a roll. That's all there really is to say. They currently are 10-2, 20 points in their first 12 games, and the team's just clicking. Of course, Marty Necas has been a huge storyline right now. He's on fire. Their offense is going. Their defense, of course, Rod Brindamore's defensive system is one of the best in the NHL, and the team is they've been a good team the past few years, so there's not a lot. It's like they've been a good team the past few years, so it's not super surprising. However, at the same time, they did lose a lot in the offseason, so we thought they might get off to a slow start, but no, it's the opposite. They're on fire right now and are once again a very dangerous team, very elite contender. Second, you have the New Jersey Devils, also with 20 points, although they have played more games than a lot of other teams. They've played 16 games, so their point percentage is lower, and they're currently 9-5-2, which I think they're a legit team too. Of course, I think some of the other teams in the Metro right now are better, but I don't think they're the second best team in the Metro right now, but definitely third or fourth. They should definitely make the playoffs and be a contender again this year. My Caps are third in the Metro, currently 9-3-0, so they've got 18 points in 12 games, and they're looking red hot. I'm gonna, of course, talk about them to end the show, so I'll get back to them in a little bit. And then the New York Rangers in fourth, which fourth is misleading because they've been on a roll too to start the year. 8-3-1 for 17 points in 12 games. So these top four teams in the Metro are looking really good. I think all of them are as of now, all of them are looking like contenders. They're all clicking right now. They're all just on a roll, and it'll be really interesting to see how this shapes out as we go through the season. What teams stay hot, maybe one of them cool down. If they all stay really elite throughout the season, who will get the seeding, who will get what spot in the standings, because if they all stay like this throughout the season, then it's going to be a really tight finish with which team will be, with the teams who will finish like first, second, third, or fourth. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. Of course, I really hope the Caps end up being the best team, but as a fan of hockey, it's really going to be exciting to see how this all plays out for the Metro, because these four teams are all looking really like contenders right now. Moving forward, you got some teams in the Metro after that kind of drops off. You've got the New York Islanders are currently at 6-2, so they're right at 500 right now for a percentage. I mentioned when I talked about Barzal and Pelech injuries, I don't know what their problem is, because they keep blowing leads. And last year we saw this happen under Lane Lambert. They fire him and Patrick Waugh comes in, and it seems like they're kind of getting it together. It seems like the coaching change was what they needed. And now it's happening again. And I really don't know what the problem is for them, because people are saying fire Lou Lamoriello. And while I do think his good days are past them, I don't think firing him, the general manager, I don't think this, he's given them a decent team on paper. I don't think firing the general manager is going to really help them with this issue of blowing leads. Usually that's a coaching thing, but they fired the coach last year and it got better when Patrick Waugh came in, and now the problems happen again. So I really just don't understand what their problem is. But I mean, if they want to make the playoffs, they better figure it out soon. Columbus is currently also at 500, 5-2, and I think this team is surprising me. I don't think they'll make the playoffs. I think they are on paper one of the worst teams, but it really makes you think: are they playing is playing for Johnny Gaudreau bringing the best out of them? Which it's like I said, it's still very sad and shocking what happened there, but it's great to see them honoring the Blue Jackets, honoring the both the Gaudreau brothers. Of course, they've been wearing the number 13 patches on their jerseys, so they're playing hard for him this season, which is great to see. It's what was I saying? Yeah, it is good to see them though, really working to honor his memory and keep his memory alive, and you can tell they're really playing hard for him. Then you got the Penguins, currently second to last in the Metro, which of course I'm loving. Although I gotta be careful because the Caps play them tonight. They're currently 5-8-2, and all kidding aside, I am surprised because I thought some people overhyped them entering the season. I did not think they were that good, but I thought they were just very mid. I thought they were going to be about a 500 team, but no, they've been below mid. They've been bad, and I don't I guess it's Crosby and Malkin's thing. The thing with them is Crosby and Malkin are still playing really well despite their age. So my thing is, if they can't do well when these guys are doing good, then how are they supposed to? Then chances are I don't really see them being a playoff team if they still can't do well. If the team clearly is still not good enough to do well when you've got Crosby and Malkin still able to carry the team pretty much. Their offense outside of Crosby and Malkin is very underwhelming. Defense, Letang looks like he might be really regressing. He's not what he used to be. The defense is pretty underwhelming too as a whole. Of course, they have Erik Karlsson, who's a great offensive defenseman, but his defense and numbers are not good. They've had very underwhelming goaltending too. It's just this team is just so below average, and I don't really see them getting it together if they, like I said, they can't do well when Crosby and Malkin are this hot. Then of course Philly's last, not surprising, of course. The future for them is bright, but they've still, if they have a bad season this year because they've already got Mitchkov, and if they finish really bad, then it'll be a blessing in disguise for them because they can get a good draft pick this year. But they're still definitely a few years away from any improvements or anything. It's pretty much proving that last season their start was a fluke, and that then when they started off really good and then they kind of fell off in the second half of the season, it is proving that that start was a fluke, and they are pretty much closer to the team that they were in the second half of the season last year. Moving on to the Atlantic, the Florida Panthers in the first place, they've been really hot. They're currently 21 points in 14 games, while the second place is Toronto with 16 points. So they're leading by a lot. Of course, Barkov and Tkachuk were injured at the start of the year, and they still did pretty good considering those two were out. Now they're back and they're just rolling. Sam Reinhart currently leads the league in points. Does he lead? Sorry, 1 minute. Does he lead in points? He's fifth in points right now, and is tied for lead in goals. So he's been red hot. He's proving that he is a superstar in his own right. He's an elite player in his own right too. And this team I don't see them slowing down either. They're, of course, the defending champs, and I thought they might get off to a cup hangover, which actually could still happen. We saw Vegas last year start off really hot, showing no signs of a hangover, but as the season went on, they started to slow down a bit because it is hard to come back after having that long of a playoff run, and then you're just celebrating all summer, so you have to come back, get dialed in. It kind of takes a physical and mental hangover. It's kind of like a physical and mental hangover sometimes, and they've not had that yet. But I could see them getting. I could see them maybe slowing down actually as we get further into the season, maybe as we get approach like the midway point of the season, but I don't think it'll hurt them. I think they are still going to be a very elite team come playoff time. They should be back. They should, if they do go through a hangover, or maybe not, actually, I guess you wouldn't call it hangover at that point, but if they do go through a bit of a slump, then I think they'll get back together in time for the playoffs. They're proving they're still a very legit team. And then, like I said, Toronto's number 2. No surprise there. Tampa Bay's number 3. Both teams are doing pretty good. Bruins, of course, Bruins in 4th place with 15 points in 15 games, so they're right at 500. They've, of course, had a very underwhelming and disappointing start. However, they've won 3 of their last 4 games, including back-to-back shutouts last weekend. So they could. It looks like they could be back. We'll see, but I think the Bruins will get. I've said before, I think the Bruins will get together and make the playoffs. So I think it is very likely that they just had a slow start and now they are picking it back up. Then the bottom 4 teams in the Atlantic are Detroit, Buffalo, Ottawa, and Montreal, and I did not expect any of these teams to make the playoffs this year. I thought Ottawa could take a step forward, but they're still. This rebuild really is dragged on because in 2022 there was just so much promise when they got Claude Giroux, when they got Alex DeBrincat. Of course, DeBrincat ended up being traded a year later, but it just looks like they're finally coming out of the rebuild. But so far, it's still not. We're over 2 years later; it still hasn't happened yet. So hopefully for them, they can come out of the rebuild sooner rather than later. But I am kind of surprised though, because while, like I said, I didn't think they're going to make the playoffs. I thought they were going to be close to the playoff spot. I thought they were going to be better than Buffalo, than Montreal, than Ottawa, than Detroit. I thought they were going to be better than that because they've got a very elite forward core and guys like Kachuk, Stützle, Batherson, Giroux. They've got some good pieces on defense like Sanderson, Shabazz, and then they finally have a goal in Linus Ullmark. So I am a little surprised that they're not at least taking a step forward this year. Then in the Central, you've got Winnipeg at number 1. I've already talked about them. Minnesota number 2. They're clearly bouncing back this year. Kaprizov's been a huge part. He's a prime Hart candidate as of now. Dallas number 3, no surprise. They're really good. Or they've been really good the past few years, and of course are great once again. Utah Hockey Club number 4. It'll be interesting to see if this team can make the playoffs because I thought they're going to take a step forward this year. I had them finish with 91 points, but when they had 77 last year in Arizona, so I thought they were going to take a step forward this year, but I think they're making the playoffs. But they could surprise everyone. It would not surprise me at this point if they do get into a wild card spot. But moving on, we got St. Louis Blues are at 500, at 7-7. Colorado is currently 6-8-0, which I would say is disappointing. However, when you consider the number of injuries this team has, it really isn't surprising because they've got guys like McKinnon, McCarr, and Rantanen still, but their depth, like guys like Lehkonen, Nichushkin are injured, so their depth really is lacking, and it's with all these injuries. So the team has some elite superstars, but they really are a pretty shallow team at this point. Then you got Chicago, second to last, no surprise, and Nashville, of course. I've already mentioned them; they're surprising, but we'll see if they can get back together. Then the Pacific, you got Vegas number 1. They've been red hot. LA number 2. They've done better than I thought they would, especially without Doughty. I thought they were going to be kind of a borderline wild card team this year, and then when they lost Doughty, I was like, oh yeah, I think they can miss the playoffs. But no, they're still doing pretty good. Vancouver number 3. They're once again doing good this year, despite not having Elias Pettersson being very disappointing to start the year. I'm not sure what's going on with him because he was not doing good to start to end last year, and it came out that he had an injury, so we thought he could bounce back this year, and so far it's not happening. So we'll have to see what happens there. But the Vancouver as a team, they're still doing good. They're 7-2-3 this year, .708 points percentage. So Calgary is 4th, which that is kind of misleading because they're 7-5-2, but a lot of those wins came in the first week or 2 of the season, and since then they've been one of the worst teams in the league. So I think that they were supposed to be rebuilding this year, and then they surprised everyone getting off to a hot start. But I think that was a fluke, and I think they are coming back down to earth now. Then Edmonton, they've done better recently. Still disappointing start, but I think they will heat up just like they did last year. Last year they had a horrendous start, and they heated up and were one of the hottest teams in the league from like November on. And I think the same thing is going to happen again. They're just too good of a team to not heat up. I had them win the President's Trophy before the season, so I think they will heat up. Seattle is currently 6th place with 5-8-1, and they made some good additions in the offseason. I thought they could contend for a wild card spot, which they're not even at that yet right now, but it is, like I said, with all these teams, it is still pretty early, so we'll see what they do. Anaheim, second to last, currently 4-6-2, and they're just having so many problems scoring right now that I think the future is still very bright for them, but clearly they're still not there yet. It's still going to take another year or two. And then San Jose's last, no surprise. Everyone picked them to be the worst team this year. I am almost out of time now, so I'm not going to take another break. I'm just going to go straight to the Caps news to end off the show. Recapping the week, last Saturday they beat on November 2nd, they beat Columbus 7-2. I was at that game. It was pretty exciting. They scored 5 goals in the first period, and I believe that Columbus only had 8 shots in the first period, so they scored their scoring percentage was over 500 for that, which was just crazy. It got to the point where I saw them going up the ice one time for I think the 5th goal, and I pulled my phone out and started recording because I had a feeling they were going to score there. It's just one of those things where they were just scoring. It felt like everything was going in for them. So just the way they were going up the ice, I was like, oh, I think they're going to score here. And sure enough, they did. They did get outplayed in the second period. I think Columbus scored 2 goals that period, if I remember right, and Caps only scored 1. So they actually did lose that period. But third period, Caps scored again, 7-2, and it was a great game. I had a great time there. It was an exciting game to see. I was surprised at how much the Caps scored that game though. Next day on Sunday they lose to Carolina, which 4-2. Which I mean, they had a rough game. You can't win them all. They started the season off. They've started the season off 9-3, so I'll take that any day of the week. But yeah, it was just one of those games where they have bad game. You can't, like I said, you can't win them all. But then on Wednesday, November 6th, they beat Nashville 3-2, and they were wearing the Screaming Eagle jerseys, of course, their first time wearing them this season. Which of course we know Ovi loves those jerseys. Those are the design they had when he first came into the league, and the stat came out. Ovi scored a goal in all 8 games dating back to when they wore the jersey as a reverse retro in 2022-23. He scored a goal in all 8 games that they've worn that jersey. So not sure if the jersey actually has an impact or if it's just a coincidence. But clearly he's loving that jersey, and he's playing well in it. So. Can't wait for. I'm not sure. I can't remember exactly when they wear it again, but I love seeing that jersey on the ice. It's amazing, and yeah, I'm so glad it's back this year. More news on the Caps though. Wednesday was Caps owner Ted Leonsis' 1,000th win as owner, which was amazing to see. He's had such a successful tenure as Caps owner. Multiple President's Trophies, one of the best. I think it's like the best or second best record in the league since he took what am I saying here? Since he became owner, I think the Caps have either the best or second best record in the NHL. So congratulations to him. He's been an amazing owner for the Caps, and has given this city so much, has given this fan base so much to celebrate and cherish. Moving forward, the Caps win 8-2 to start in the first 10 games of the season, which ties the franchise record. They're just on a roll, and I mean, I was higher on the Caps than a lot of people didn't even have them making the playoffs. I said they're going to make a wild card spot, but I do have to admit I did not have them doing this good. Like they're beyond just they're beyond just like surprising people at this point. Like they are an absolute wagon, and I'm loving it. But I do have to admit I like to say that I was faithful the whole time in my team and stuff. And like I said, I was higher on them than most people, but I did not expect them to do this good. Like they're on another level right now. And we also saw last week Ovi won first star of the week. Currently, he had, I believe, 5 goals and 5 goals and 4 assists for 9 points in 4 games. So he's been on a roll. He's proven that he's not slowing down yet. He's 39 years old and still finding the back of that plenty, setting up plays, and he's and it's great to see. He's 34 goals away from breaking the record again and Wayne Gretzky's goal record, and we really are witnessing history, something that we really need to cherish because unfortunately the time is running out for his career. So we really just need to cherish these last few years, and right now we're seeing that he's still not slowing down. So really, this really is a time to cherish and really take in watching him play. Speaking of cherishing history and witnessing history, tonight, him and Crosby, the Caps and Penguins play each other, one of the best rivalries in hockey. Him and Sid go head to head, the 2 best players of the 2010s. So that's always exciting to watch. That's a match that every time these two play each other, I'd say we have to cherish it because both their careers are coming to an end, are quickly coming to an end. So we need to cherish every time we watch these two play each other, and it's just great for the game anytime they do play each other. We're talking about it was already one of the best rivalries in hockey before they came into the league, and now you've got guys who were the 2 best players in the league for a solid 10 to 15 years and are still very good. Still two of the best players still 2 of the best players to ever play at their age. Like they're setting records for players at 36, 37, 38, 39 years old. So very impressive to see, and they're 2 all-time greats. So it'll be a great game tonight. I'm hoping the Caps win, but that's about it for today. Thank you for listening, and I'll be seeing you next week.